The civil unrest, the riots that have now swept this nation, most notably in big cities run by far-left liberals, are now, for decades, now undoubtedly having a major impact. We have an election in 152 days. You, the American people, you will be the ultimate jury. But Fox News contributor Karl Rove is saying Joe Biden isn't rising to the occasion, blasting, well, the ever-forgetful Joe's response to the riots as, quote, campaign claptrap. The architect, Karl Rove, welcome back, sir.
Thanks for having me.
Let's get your analysis right to it. I know there's a couple of whiteboards probably by your side.
No, we ran out of whiteboards. The old ones just wore out, and we've been waiting so long for the ones that you promised to send me that I'm just not able to do it. So no whiteboards tonight. They just wore out. Right. Look, I made my comment about Tuesday's speech by Joe Biden, but you have to go back to last Saturday. On Saturday, President Trump went to Florida for the launch, and in the first 10 minutes of his remarks following that successful launch, he addressed the death of George Floyd. And it was 10 minutes that are well worth reading, because about just over half the time was devoted to expressing what he called the horror and the grief and the anger that the American people have about this incident. He identified himself as a friend and an ally of anyone seeking justice. He talked about how his Justice Department had begun an immediate investigation, and he spoke on behalf of the American people in our unified horror at what happened to George Floyd. And the other half of the speech, he weaved these together. So it wasn't just 50% plus of this and then 48% of this, but he did talk about the violence that was being perpetuated. He forthrightly defended the right of people to peacefully protest under our Constitution, but he did talk about the effect of these violent members of these protests who are trying to use the cover of those protests for their own evil means. And it was a great set of remarks. The problem was it was Saturday afternoon and nobody saw it. So I wish he gave that speech again, in prime time. But Joe Biden on Tuesday responded. And it was really interesting because there was literally like 2 lines where he talked about the violence being perpetrated in these protests, and much of his speech some of his speech was devoted to talking about George Floyd. But 4 minutes into the speech, in a moment where the American people didn't want to hear partisan politics, Joe Biden began to attack the president. He said the president is interested in power, not principles, that he's concerned not about all of us, but about his donors, that he's trying to quiet our voices and so forth. And I thought it was a real mistake. He could have risen above it, as the president tried to do on Saturday, but Biden muffed it bad, I think. And the setting was terrible. No audience, which I understand. But he was looking at a teleprompter on either side, very rarely looking at the lens, and sort of Mr. Swivelhead right and left as he read off of the teleprompter. The worst thing that's going to happen to Joe Biden is he's going to have to start talking. Right. It might be great when you're hiding in your basement and having bad podcasts. Karl Rove, thank you.